These children grow
What's happening
hungry.
down here is bigger than all of us.
Cool gameplay moment.
I need you.
Lore. Lore tape.
Get revenge on those monsters
Oh,
who
awesome.
tortured you. Who've tortured us.
Hey! Hey guys, and welcome to GTLive, where today we're not playing Poppy Playtime. I thought we might be playing Poppy Playtime, but we are not playing Poppy Playtime because instead we are reacting to Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 Deep Sleep Gameplay Trailer number 1. Yes?
Yes.
And this literally just came out.
Hours ago.
Hours ago. Literally 2 hours ago. No way!
Yeah, man.
Yeah! Look at us. Hours.
Woo!
I'm so proud of us. That's amazing. Yeah, so 2 hours ago, Poppy Playtime released the gameplay trailer number 1, which is surprising because I've been waiting for Poppy Playtime for a while, and it was supposed to release here sometime in December, but it sounds like it might have gotten moved, yeah?
Yes. Mob Entertainment posted on Twitter that the game has been delayed a few weeks into 2024.
Which makes sense, because
Yes.
honestly at this point, with FNAF coming at the end of this week, already it felt like it was kind of going to be competing against kind of the juggernaut of this industry in a lot of ways. And so even if it released at the beginning of this week or next week or whatever, a lot of the conversation is going to be dominated by FNAF. So while I'm bummed that I have to wait a little bit longer for this, I'm also not surprised, and I think it's probably for the best for them, because December was already set to be crowded between this Poppy Garten Ban, this FNAF Garten Ban. So having that one move, I think, is smart for them. I think it gives them more opportunity to just like have the spotlight for themselves. That being said, though, I am surprised to get more things for us to react to, right? So I'm excited to see this trailer because I felt like we'd already seen everything and we were ready for the upload of it, but I guess not. So gameplay trailer number 1. So we're going to do some live theory crafting today.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Let's do this. Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, Deep Sleep gameplay trailer number 1. Seems like it's very well received already. 2 hours, 300,000. So let's see. Hey, this looks familiar. Hold up. I've seen this guy before. Are we just reacting to the same? I've seen this opening animation in like 4 or 5 different videos at this point. They are real proud of this Smiling Critters asset that they created, which, to be fair, it's very good. And we've already done a video where we dissected it, we looked at the characters, we figured out who they are, what their names are, all that stuff. But I have seen it a lot, so I'm hopeful that there's a little bit more here than just, here's this video again. Let's find out. So purely 90s. We talked about this. It's like Care Bears. It's like all sorts of things. We've called out the fact that, like, you know, you have the different logos similar to the Care Bears where they have different things that represent them. Like, you know, he's the smart one, so he's got a light bulb. She's the creative one, so she's got like a palette and flowers. There's CatNap, who's the villain of this chip. Oh, there we go. There's something new. That's exciting. Okay. What is that? Oh, it's just dust. The reason I rewound it is because I saw this flash of something up here, and I thought it was like something walking past the TV in the background, but no, it's just like some dirt. Okay, emergency alert system effective 8/8/1995. Okay, so they're giving us a very clear timeline of this one. 95 would be, I believe, close to the Hour of Joy that we've talked about when it comes to the Poppy Playtime timeline. We know Boogie Bot was released in 1993, and I believe we've hypothesized in past episodes that the Hour of Joy, which is when all the toys basically rebel, and when Playtime Co. as a company gets shut down because the prototype has rallied everyone to go attack the workers all at the same time. I believe we hypothesized that that is happening around this 1995 time period. So this might be giving us the exact time and date and location of what's going on here. So that's huge. Playtime Company issues a workforce danger alert. So this would make sense if this is all of a sudden coming out to everyone and being broadcast widely. Hey, the toys are on the rampage. Watch out. They coming for ya. So hide your kids, hide your wife. Bed intruder style. Whoever designed the emergency alert sound succeeded at their job and then some. It is the most uncomfortable, disturbing, alarming sound that I have ever heard. I don't know who made it, but they deserve a raise because they knocked it out of the ballpark. You hear that, and it's so distinct from literally anything. Even like when you get like an Amber Alert on your phone and stuff like that, like fundamentally a very different sense of urgency and a very different sense of uncomfort there. Like this is just, it's uncomfortable. What's that in the corner? Nothing really, okay. Poppytron 502. I don't know if that's a TV brand. It's odd that it's all shifted over. I don't think this is really pointing at anything, but it's interesting that there is a TV brand dedicated to Poppy, like an Infinitron. So it's interesting that maybe Playtime Co. broke out into making electronics for a while. The fact that it's a 502 seems to imply that this isn't the first model of it. So up until this point, we've only heard really Playtime Co. developing toys, right? Living toys out of kids. And some of the workers as well. But we haven't seen them doing anything like this, where it's making like electronics or consumer goods at that size. So that's really interesting. Nothing really in the reflection of the TV. I figured I would just, since we're paused here, look at it, but it doesn't seem like there's anything. It seems like an empty room.
The following message is for all Playtime Company employees.
Have you heard the news? Ooh, hello. What's that? What does they find the flower? Find the flower. Okay, so that's going to be the poppy flower, yeah? Okay. Let's see what we got here. We've got Poppy's house. So we've hypothesized, right, based on the past trailers, based on the past teasers that we've gotten, that we're going to be exploring basically an area where the orphans were kind of stored or lived in and around Playtime Co., right? We know at this point that Playtime takes kids, transforms them, tests them out to see whether they're fit to be kind of used for toys, and then eventually they are transformed into the toys. Like if there's a proper match with that toy, then they're kind of converted in whatever magical process that's happening into the toy. And we've seen that through a couple different characters and a couple different documents. We hypothesize that it's about using poppy gel, like a poppy gel, that they were somehow doing this process because of the poppy flower. They did experiments with rats using this poppy gel. And so this then seems to be like the orphanage that exists inside of the factory. And I gotta call out, I really appreciate the detail here. Like this chapter has already set itself up to be really cinematic and really thoughtful, but already you can see the detail here of them putting up a facade for the kids to make it look like it's more homey or more outdoors and natural, but you still see the outside, like the edges of that in the factory that they exist in, which I think is a really cool detail. It shows the artifice of this, right? And how manufactured this whole setup was to try and make these kids feel comfortable, when in actuality they were just experimental test subjects that were ultimately going to wind up in a toy at some point. It's interesting that Poppy is kind of the figurehead of this organization. Like maybe the Poppy Orphanage or something like dedicated to her or her memory. You have the classic red and yellow that is Playtime Co. as their kind of like primary color palette. And then I think it's interesting that the mailbox is just, it looks like a living mailbox, which is kind of goofy and fun. Here, I'm gonna watch it from this point, and then we'll come back and rewind some of this. Find the flower. So there's the smiling critters. These children have suffered.
Thing. CatNap. The prototype is his god.
No way. Is that?
And this is what he does to heretics.
Who is that? These children
What's
grow
happening down
hungry.
here is bigger than all of us.
Cool gameplay moment.
I need you.
Floor tape.
Get revenge on those monsters
Oh,
who
awesome.
tortured you. Who've tortured us.
Hey! Huh. Okay, so you're already seeing... It's interesting that we're converting from the white text to the red text.
prototype has to die.
Because historically the white and the red have
For everything.
potentially been separate characters, but not together. Oh, that's cool. That's a really good shot. I like the build-up, not to a jump scare, but to like something a little bit somber. Chapter 3, Deep Sleep. Oh, that's the title of the video, that makes sense. Deep Sleep. Did Chapter 2 have a title? Because Chapter 1 was just Poppy Playtime. Chapter 2 was there anything with Mommy or like Web of Lies or... Because on one hand, I'm like, Chapter 2 didn't have a subtitle, but on the other hand, I'm like, did Chapter 2 have a subtitle? Chapter 2, did it have a name? It was just Poppy Playtime Chapter 2? It wasn't like Into the Web, into the Spider-Verse. Poppy Playtime Into the Spider-Verse. Official game trailer. Fly in a Web. Chapter 2, Fly in a Web. I'm like, I swear I saw a name somewhere at some point. There it is. Fly in a Web. Not that it was used anywhere. Not that it was really catchy in any way. Everyone just is like Poppy Playtime Chapter 2. So now we know Chapter 3 is Deep Sleep, which we've been expecting because of the poppy flower making you fall asleep. This looks great. I mean, it looks fantastic. And again, if there's delays to make it look better or do final polish, like, I'm fine. You know, no need to rush stuff out. I've never been kind of like one of those guys who's like, make sure it gets out on time. So let's go through this, because it seems like there's a lot of stuff they've packed in here. So find the flower means that we're looking for potentially like a poppy flower, but it makes it feel like it's more of a special flower, not just your normal poppy flower, because why would it be a big deal about finding one specific poppy flower? Feels, or like a general, like, find the flower, poppy flower. Like, it makes me feel like there must be something more special about whatever flower we're looking for, outside of it just being your normal one. It's also interesting, too, because at the Chapter 1, Poppy Playtime 1 letter, where's the letter in Chapter 1? This guy. It was find the flower again. Everyone thinks the staff disappeared 10 years ago. We're still here. Find the flower. The whole game starts with that premise of find the flower. And I think a lot of us just assumed that at the end of Chapter 1, there's this big painting on the wall that is of a flower, right? Poppy Playtime Chapter 1, let's say ending. Like after the whole Poppy sequence. Thank you to Media Games Guide for your upload of all this. But yeah, oh, here it is. If we can see it from what it's there. So at the very end of Chapter 1, after you do the Huggy Chase and all that, you see this kind of painted on the wall, and that leads you into where you eventually find Poppy. So I think a lot of us just playing through the chapter were like, oh, we found the flower. That's it. Like, Poppy is not only a doll, but this is the Poppy flower that we were led to. It is the same that you see in the letter, so it should be one and the same. But apparently it looks like they might have tweaked it in some way or expanded it in some way to make the flower not just symbolic of that moment or Poppy as a character, but now there is actually a physical flower in a way that there hasn't been before, which is, I think, particularly interesting. Now here, what do we see? This immediately jumps out to me as maybe like a hidden trophy or something, because in a room full of like derelict things that are all rusted over, falling apart, you know, old, you have this very bright green thing that just stands out to me. I think that's just interesting. So this looks to be what? Okay, so if we're in an orphanage, these are the bunk beds where all the kids were kept. And so we're seeing the ruins of this orphanage. And you can see just how many kids there were, right? I mean, you're already counting a bunch. I'm just trying to see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So it's going to be, I'd have to rewatch it a couple times, but I think it's going to be like, and we'll obviously see it when the game releases, but it seems like it's at minimum 18 kids. There might even be more back here. So you're talking about a lot, like this isn't just like a group of 5 or a group of 8. You know, the Smiling Critters trailers that they've been showing and that they've been releasing have shown kind of like a very specific band of characters. And I think from me watching that, I'm like, oh, there is your cast of, I think it's 7. I think it's 6 normal ones and then CatNap. So, there's your list of 7 characters that are orphans. But based on the number of beds here, this was actually a much larger operation with a lot more kids at any given point in time, which again is important, I think, for the lore standpoint. At the end there, that was a Poppy head. Okay, I was just curious. So the gas mask, which we've suspected for a while is going to be a gameplay mechanic. We've talked about in past theories how during when gas-based warfare became prevalent, you had militaries and soldiers trying to find ways to make gas masks less scary for kids to either use or engage with. And so you had the Mickey Mouse gas masks, which are horrific in and of themselves. If you look up pictures of these Mickey Mouse gas masks, or I could just show you the Mickey Mouse gas masks, because they are the stuff of nightmares. But this isn't fun or happy. That's terrifying. Look at that. That's not Mickey Mouse. I don't care how happy you're trying to make this gas mask be. That's not happy. That's not this is not selling me on the there's my friend Mickey Mouse. I'm totally cool with this as a small child. This is accurate. This feels appropriate. That's horrific and traumatizing in so many more ways. You see all the fear and analog horror stuff around plague masks. The plague doctors with their long, hooked noses and stuff. I see this, and I'm like, this is the stuff of nightmares. So the reason the mask is red and yellow is because it's meant to be more fun, child-friendly, also matches the Playtime Co. color scheme. We've suspected that it's going to be a big gameplay mechanic in this chapter because there's this poppy gas that puts kids to sleep or gives you hallucinations or whatever, and so we're going to need it to kind of get through those areas. And it seemed like there was a moment where he put on the mask, but we'll keep watching. Smiling friends, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I think we've seen, there's the pig, the unicorn, Chica the chicken, because there's always a chicken. This is the athletic one. He was the courageous one, the smart one, and the compassionate or friendly guy. It's interesting that you have some of the other characters up here. Here's Braun hanging out. Poor Braun. Man, people keep wanting Braun to be the star of the show, and he keeps getting sidelined, getting brutalized. He was in a couple trailers. He was in one of the analog horror things that we've reacted to, one of the Poppy Playtime tapes, and we learn about the person who's inside of him and how he kind of gets beat up by all the other characters because he was one of the workers, as opposed to the kids who are we're mad at you because you were the worst. You did this to us, and you're punished now. So poor Braun's just getting beat up all over the place. Is this an actual character, though? It kind of looks like it, right? Like a hippo?
Yeah, or like a cow.
Cow. I could see cow with a horn here or some ears. It's interesting. I don't know. I can't really make it out, but yeah, so there are some characters that are just kind of hung up there. It's not Cappy. These children have suffered. Yes, very clearly.
Thing. CatNap.
What?
That thing. CatNap.
What is he saying? That thing? CatNap?
I think. I can't tell that second word.
Right? What is the second word there?
That thing. CatNap.
I mean, that's what it says. That thing, CatNap, I guess. CatNap is your friend. Please stay in your beds following lights out protocol. Oh, that's not alarming at all. Great. Please stay in your beds. I love that he's also just grabbing their heads. It's a very ominous position. It's not just I'm friendly with these kids. It's I'm going to smash their heads together. With the poppy gas all around him. Good detail.
The prototype is his god.
So this is wild. And this is what immediately caught my attention. This is not the prototype. For a second there, and now that I have a chance to actually look at it and process what I'm looking at, this is clearly not the prototype. But there was that moment of wait, is that him? Are they revealing what the prototype is? This, I believe, is what? CatNap's effigy of the prototype. Basically, CatNap were these characters building out what the prototype is as kind of an homage to him or worshiping him in some way, which is kind of crazy. It also makes it interesting because at the end of chapter 2, we see the prototype's needle hands, the kind of like pointy stick hands, pulling Mommy Longlegs away. And she's like, he's going to add me to him. She's going to add me to him. But we also see Mommy Longlegs' arm right here. So I'm wondering if, even though the prototype's the one that dragged Mommy Longlegs away at the end of Chapter 2, is there a world where the prototype gave that to CatNap as some sort of offering, or added it to this effigy in some way, and not necessarily added it to himself as this amalgamation of other things, but maybe added it to this thing. There's a lot here that's fascinating. Is that actual bone, or is that just meant to look, is that just scaffolding around where like an elephant's nose would be? Because you hear, up here you have like what appears to be a skull and like a construction hat, which implies that this is almost like a human head. And that this would feel like it's like the rib cage in a lot of ways. It's a pretty horrific monster. You've got Pugapillar, DJ Pugapillar, with all his legs over there. It's interesting that it's a counterweight system. So you have the big heavy weights here to kind of help hold him up or keep him stable. Who else do I recognize from here? It looks like a lot of these are the smiling critters to some extent, with kind of their big glossy eyes and their big open mouths. So I don't know if those are formerly kids that have been sacrificed and put up here, or if they're stuffed animals that have just been kind of like loaded up onto this thing. Is that a weird, creepy face right over there? Can't really tell what that's supposed to be, if that's an actual character face, because that's pretty horrific. And it looks like it would be like from an older toy. This looks like something from a cherry picker. It's got some scaffolding, got some cool gears. This almost looks like Bunzo in a lot of ways, or that yellow rabbit creature. Yeah, it wouldn't be Chica, and I guess it wouldn't be Green Bunny unless he's discolored. So maybe it's someone new. Got a bunch of hands over here, a bunch of claws. It's a cool design. So yeah, at first I'm like, oh my gosh, did they just reveal the prototype? That's weird that they would reveal him in the middle of a big trailer. But no, they've revealed an effigy or a statue dedicated to him that is presumably giving us a sense of who he is and what he looks like, but not exactly one for one. He's a big boy. He's got some massive arms. His guns are second to none, man. Something to be believed. This is creepy. This whole, like, he turns into a skeleton at the end, and the skeleton's in control of everything. It does make me wonder if our hypothesis is true, right? And one of the former workers of the company is in charge of this, or even if it's the Elliot Ludwig, the former owner of the company, former founder of the company, if he's the one in charge of the prototype, if when we do eventually see this guy, if he is literally here, like if it's literally his body up front, and like, I'm part of this now, and then he's controlling the rest of it like a mech suit. Because again, for as far-fetched as that seems, and for as weird as you would think of, like a human body, a human torso on top of this like toy body would seem in this world, these toys are made of flesh and bone, right? They're made of flesh and blood and organs. We see that time and time again with characters being splattered when they die, or we see it in the very first trailer where stuff is being extracted from Poppy and it's bloody and has like viscera on it. So, well, on first glance, like, oh, it's all toys. Like, why would they be bloody? Why would it would be weird to have a human kind of sticking out of the front of a toy amalgamation like this. But in reality, it actually fits with the style of experimentation that are going on. This whole time, they've been trying to fuse together humans and toys. And before you get to this, like, we're just going to use their blood and viscera and throw it in there, you would think that there'd be like some sort of chimera or minotaur kind of thing, centaur kind of thing, where it's like half human, half toy. And so that would truly be the style of a prototype, because it would be a first test of that.
This is what he does to heretics.
This is what he does to heretics. So this is what he does to people who don't believe in him. Who is this? I'm trying to like recognize. So you have kind of a slim face around here. You have kind of big floppy, looks like floppy ears, but they're not like bunny ears, unless they're like extra pointed. Like a donkey. Like I see that and I think of like, well, floppy donkey ears. Like Eeyore. Go for like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Right? He's got the same kind of floppy, pointy ears that kind of have that sort of shape. Here, where are the smiling critters? The pig, maybe? Like, of them, the pig seems like it has the closest ears. It wouldn't be Chica. It wouldn't be Unicorn. The bunny feels like the ears don't quite match. It wouldn't be CatNap because CatNap's the villain. It could be the dog. Elephant doesn't really make sense, I don't think, in the bear. Right? So, and it would make sense, right, for it to be a kid or like one of the smiling critters, because we have this big cast of characters that are the smiling critters. It would make sense for one of them to be a non-believer, to be deemed as a heretic and thus like ostracized and put up. Also, if you look at the general size of the character, like the arms are super thin. Which again, like, what are the arms of the smiling critters like? Do they have a specific? No, it's just kind of like, this is them as cartoons. They're kind of normal. I will say the arms feel a little bit too thin for it to be one of them.
Right? It's like almost huggy proportions.
Yeah.
And like facial shape, but the ears don't add up.
Right? Right, and there's not another character from a previous like chapter that this could be. The only other character that hasn't like done anything is like Daddy Longlegs, but no, he's rounded. Because he has those long arms, those kind of like long, thin arms, but his face is too round.
And that torso doesn't.
Yeah, and the torso doesn't make any sense, yeah. Huh. So maybe this is someone new. Maybe we're meeting a new character, and we're going to have to save them, or they'll get brought along for the ride. I don't think they'll survive. You can even see some stitching, it looks like right there. I don't think that's just a shadow. I think that's actually some stitching, which is interesting.
To heretics.
That's what he does to heretics. The children
What's
grow
happening
hungry.
down here is bigger than all of us.
Okay, so this is the section where they're like, this is the gameplay mechanic of this chapter.
What's happening down here is big.
So it looks like you have kind of this like spring arm, which is kind of cool and also much appreciated since swinging and grappling from the first two chapters weren't the easiest. They weren't like the most seamless of gameplay ideas. So the idea of using this as like a propulsion arm and a launch arm is actually really cool.
Bigger than all of us.
Love that. Looks like, and again, it looks like we're having to avoid the poppy gas. You know, we're either having to like parkour over the poppy gas, or, you know, maybe this is a period before we have our gas mask, so we have to just avoid it because otherwise it's going to act as lava and we're just dead.
I need you.
Classic evil Poppy, classic evil Huggy Wuggy, so that's going to give us obviously a lore tape, continuing the theme of lore tapes and static images during those lore tapes. That might be him during the hour of
Bigger
joy.
than all of us. I need you.
Because he looks like he's in full attack
We
mode.
can get revenge on those.
This is cool. I love these mechanics. Just throwing it out there. As a fan of how the like puzzle mechanics have worked, it has been a sorely underutilized part, I think, of the first two chapters. I think this idea of you have a limited amount of arm and you have to complete these circuits and stuff, I think it's a really cool mechanic. Poppy not only is a cool aesthetic story with cool analog horror stuff, but I think what people underappreciate about this, and I think what makes it stand out from other analog horror stuff, or not analog horror, of mascot horror stuff, is that there's also some really solid gameplay moments. You know, sure, there's like, oh, it's the Huggy Wuggy chase, and it's the Mommy Longlegs chase, and those are good moments, but really it's surrounded on all sides by really solid gameplay. Whether it was the Whack-A-Huggy down in the sewer system or down in kind of like the play area, if it was the kind of tongue-in-cheek humor of the Simon Says bit, where Bunzo's coming down and you have to like hit the logos and it's like a really fast Stroop test. And then stuff like this, where the puzzles, actually I find myself having to think through them and they're challenging and you have to figure out how to manage your resources and stuff. Across the board, like the gameplay of Poppy it's unsung hero. A lot of focus is on the aesthetics, on the lore, on the mystery, and they've done a good job of the character design and stuff. But the game, like it wouldn't hold up quite as well if it wasn't for like there being a solid game mechanic behind it and the idea of the stretchy arms and what they can do. Really, really cool. In the background, you see a test tube of like a testing chamber of the poppy gas, which makes me think, hey, maybe we're exploring the laboratory where these kids were put under and transformed. So we might get more insight into that, because this is big enough for a human. This wouldn't just be like it's a little thing for testing the gas. It feels like we're dropping characters or people into this, and now the tests are actually happening, which is really fascinating, that we're getting more depth into this process. It also looks like our arm length might be unrestricted in this one, because the arms seem to be going much further than they ever have before. Able to bend over this, able to go around all of these things. That would be nice. That was one of the core gameplay puzzle mechanics of how do you use your arm length. But I like the idea of solving more complicated puzzles with less restriction. That's kind of cool.
Those monsters who tortured you, who've tortured us.
So that's interesting that Poppy's the one saying that.
Those monsters who tortured you.
That's CatNap. CatNap walking across. Because we see at the end, this is the same character that's during this final shot.
So we can get revenge on those monsters who tortured you, who've tortured us.
So first off, always happy to see Kissy Missy. Always a win. Also, what's she holding? Is that a battery? Did she lose her arm? Oh, she's holding a flashlight? Is that a mini flashlight? It's either a battery or a mini flashlight. It's interesting that Poppy says that tortured you, that tortured us.
Monsters who tortured you.
Tortured you. So this whole time we've been hypothesizing that our character is complicit in what happened here, right? Like we are part of the problem. We contributed to the bad stuff that's happened to these kids. We made some of these toys, things like that. And that we're here to kind of atone for the sins of our past. So it's interesting to hear Poppy say that tortured you. But I also think that maybe that line could be taken out of context here, and it might not be referring to us. I could see them using this as a misdirect, but in actuality, this might be Poppy talking to the smiling critters, right? This could be a moment where Poppy is talking to the smiling critters to sick them on us or get them to attack us. Because to my knowledge, we shouldn't have been tortured in any way, right? Like, we were an employee at the companies, and now we're coming back. We seem to be human. So why were we tortured, unless we were just mistreated as an employee? The other reason I call it out, though, and the reason I think it's particularly worth talking about, is she says, Poppy, again, was the first. And maybe the torture she's referring to is the experimentation that she was put under to see how to replicate what happened to her. Or, maybe there were a lot of tests done or things like that to learn from the Poppy doll, which is why she's like, the torture that they've done to us. Poppy's allegiances in general have been vague, I think, and nebulous up to this point. She wants to help us out, but then she does things that are kind of make you question what's going on. She's against the other toys, which is interesting. If you think back to Chapter 2, right? Mommy Longlegs kidnaps Poppy. And one of the questions is why would the toys turn on each other? And I think it's particularly worth noting that this is Poppy and this is Kissy, right? Kissy Missy? But it's just weird that she's more feathery than usual. And maybe it's just a up close of her texture or something, but it's she's just not the same. But I think what's fascinating here is that Poppy and Kissy are working together. And we know that Kissy has helped us in the past through our mission, even though other toys are trying to stop us or kill us or eat us. So is there something about the allegiances of these two with us versus the other toys? We also know that Kissy Missy was a former employee of the company, where she tried to sabotage things at the company and got penalized for it, and part of her disciplinary plan was she was put into a character. So maybe there's a world where the adults here are going up against the toys, because Kissy Missy was an adult who was put into a toy. We know we're an adult. We also know that Braun was an adult. Again, based on the analog horror tapes that have been released between chapters, Braun was an adult employee who was dying and was put into the toy as kind of if I'm going to die anyway, this is my chance to live on, use my body for science. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, I was going out anyway. And it works, and now all of a sudden you have this adult employee in the Braun toy, but when placed with all the others, they attack him. right? So again, it's setting up this conflict between the toys with kids in them and the adults who worked at this company, and it seems like Kissy Missy, as one who's been friendly to us, was an adult who worked at this company. We presumably are an adult who worked at this company. But the kid ones who attack us are, the younger characters. Mommy, though, I guess was an adult. So maybe not. I'm just, again, live theory crafting here, just calling out interesting trends. But the toys aren't all on the same team. And I think that's one of the things to keep in the back of our mind is who actually is on the team of the prototype, who believes in them, who's on the side of CatNap, who's on our side. Because it's not one for one. It's not all the toys are evil, all the humans are bad, whatever. It feels like there are allegiances and alliance here based on where they're coming from.
You've tortured us.
The Hour of Joy arrives, so we know Hour of Joy is the moment where the toys go off the rails and attack everything, and everything goes to heck. Interesting that we have the white and the red merging together throughout this text. Through the first couple of chapters and through a lot of the early teasers, there felt like there was a difference between the messages that were coming through in white and the messages that were coming through in red, as though they were coming from two separate entities. And over time, our theories have kind of analyzed what's said in a lot of that text, and we've had to hypothesize more and more that, hey, maybe those are actually one and the same. They're coming from the same entity, or two halves of the same entity, but it seems like they're all coming from the same place. And it seems like the trailer's trying to get us to that conclusion, where for the first time we're seeing what was purely white text start right here. It starts with the white text starting to blur into red or transform into red, showing that maybe they are kind of coming from one and the same. This is the phone from Project Playtime. Celebrate. This is it. So this is where we see the mask come on. Is that Poppy's voice saying that?
Monsters who tortured you. Who've tortured us. Coming! Just hold. We're coming! Just hold on!
Close. This seems like an ending cutscene.
We're coming!
This seems like it would be like almost an ending cutscene of the chapter, going down like a big slide. It's also interesting that we're, again, back in a residential area. Chapter 1 ended with like a recreation of a house. That's where Poppy was kept in the glass case. It felt very homey, like a recreation of maybe Elliot Ludwig's home, where he and Poppy lived. But then we moved away from that in Chapter 2, where we were exploring more of the testing facilities and playground areas and this and that. So I think it's worth calling out, and it's noteworthy that we're back into a residential area going downward. So it seems like, again, similar to the FNAF Ruin, right, where we see layers and layers and layers of pizzerias on top of each other telling the history of this place. As we go deeper down, we're getting back more into the history of this company and the characters that were here.
Just hold on! The prototype has to die.
See, again, if this is Poppy talking, the prototype has to die. So she is against the prototype. And even Mommy Longlegs, as an evil toy who is attacking us, was against the prototype. So a big part of the lore that I think is still in question and that we're starting to come to grips with and starting to piece together is where the alliances sit. Who is on Team Prototype? Who is on Team Poppy for killing the prototype? And what do we do in between?
For this. For everything.
For this.
For this.
So we have this is just giving me really strong FNAF security breach vibes, crawling through a play place with someone chasing you and attacking you, but definitely much more gory. FNAF's like, oh, everything's fine here. This is like, oh no, there's blood. We got blood everywhere. We want blood all over.
Everything.
This also kind of invalidates what we were talking about before with the smiling critter. We're like, oh, it could be the pig or the dog. That looks to be the dog, right? And so we know for a fact that the heretic then would not be the dog. It must be the pig if it is one of them.
For everything.
Again, you have poppy flowers on the wallpaper. And we're still going through these residential locations underground. So either they're recreations of old houses. This is still maybe the orphanage, or maybe there's, something else that Elliot Ludwig had underground. There's text on the wall. is those who believe. Something is those who believe. Not 100% sure. But you see the three claws, which I believe we figured out in a previous theory is related to CatNap. So CatNap's the one marking those off. And then this is him with his crazy gas. Sleep gas. I love how still it is. It's great. Which again makes sense when this is an enemy who puts you to sleep, who is meant to kind of like lull you into dreams, and is kind of this ethereal creature. Fascinating how he's transformed. I don't know if that's on account of the experiments that were done on him, or if this is just how he's evolved over time and how he's grown over time. But like, I mean, he's huge and monstrous. And it feels like, unlike the first two chapters where it's been this big chase sequence, right? Of like, get out of there, Mommy Longlegs is coming after you, or hey, Huggy Wuggy's chasing you through the vents. It feels like this one might be a very different style of like boss battle or final encounter, where it is more stealthy, more still, more quiet, because that's kind of what this character is. He breathes out gas to slow everyone down. He's not fast, he's not menacing. It's more of this like lurking, which is cool. I love this. This is a great shot. And like the stillness of it is really palpable. Deep sleep. There you go. It's cool. Cool. No clue on dates, but we know it's going to be in January now. Which, hey, I'm super excited about. This looks great. Alex Spider, an intense Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 gameplay. This is going to be creepy and fun. I'm beyond impressed by this trailer. They have clearly put a lot of time into it. I'm more excited. Okay. This looks absolutely incredible. I do hope some of the smiling critters will be on our side. Didn't expect Dog Day to be evil. Ha! That's the one who's chasing us through the play space. I can't wait to see the final result. From the graphics to the environments to the monster design, looks like Chapter 3 is going to be a horror experience that we'll never forget. Sadly, it's delayed, but that's fine. I'm glad Kissy's back on Poppy. The story, lore-based scenes are so worth it. Yep. I mean, so generally, it looks... I agree. I think this looks incredible. This is awesome. This seems like CatNap's effigy. There it is. Someone else, Tobias Maximus 2790. This seems to be CatNap's effigy to the prototype, in my opinion. It has a bunch of pieces of toys that we've seen before interwoven, but they seem to be the toy versions rather than the actual ones. I agree. The addition of the human skeleton at the head of it is a nice touch, just in case the whole humans are toys thing wasn't clear already. Yeah, it's cool though. This is solid. I really like this. I am glad that actually we got another trailer. Having watched this, I'm more excited now than I've been. Like, we've seen a lot of cool bits and pieces. We've seen a lot of like fun little Easter eggs. They've done a really good job of keeping our interest with the analog horror tapes that they've released like every other month or so for us to talk about and dig into, which has been really fun. But this really gives us a sense of the chapter. It looks great. The new mechanics seem like they're really interesting and compelling. And it has a different vibe and feel to the previous chapters. A more mature feel, a more kind of fleshed out or well-rounded one. I do hope it keeps some of its sense of humor, because I think one of Chapter 2's strengths was how funny it was. There were a lot of very funny moments and tongue-in-cheek moments that I thought were good. But overall, very excited about this. I would expect us to get one more, probably between now and the release in early January, considering this is trailer number 1. I'm assuming since there's a delay and they're waiting through the holidays and stuff, they're going to have probably one more thing just to kind of bide the time until it's finally time to release on the other side of the holidays. But yeah, really, really cool. Really, really fun. Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 might be delayed, but I'm eager to wait. We've waited this long, no need to rush it out. So, especially during a crowded time when all of us are going to be, it's going to be tough to film. There's a lot of holidays. We have break over here, things like that. So I think having something really fresh and new to start off the year with, solid, actually. So thank you guys for that. Ash, any final thoughts?
No, not really, but it looks cool, so excited to see it.
Here's, you know what else looks cool? This jacket, which is available below. It's part of our Theory Wear line on Northern Lights. So if you're looking for fun, snuggly clothing that's a little bit bright, colorful, warm and cozy for the holiday season, that is available right below this video. Keep you warm while you wait for your next Poppy Playtime upload, I guess. Or just when it's cold. Or if you want to go sledding, good stuff for sledding. Although I don't recommend sledding in this. This is for more of like the formal events. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, remember, it wasn't a live stream, but it was a video for you. See ya!